Hey everyone, I'm Mike Kazimer. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the new Raaw Madonna V2. If you're not familiar with Raaw, they're a small German company that was founded back in 2017 by Ruben Torenbeek. Previously, he'd done some engineering work with Ghost and Scott, decided to branch out on his own. The Raaw Madonna is a 160mm 29er, and it's the industrial look that kind of really makes it stand out. There's no flashy paint jobs to be seen, and in fact, there's only two options. You get the raw color or black. Nice and straightforward. And that's kind of the theme of it, that straightforward, to the point, make it work functionality of this frame design. The Raaw now comes with a 170mm fork, which places the head angle at 64.5 degrees. And they say it's just fine if you do want to go with a 180mm fork. I'll give it a little slacker head angle, a little higher bottom bracket, totally acceptable. So this bike here is a size large, and that has 445mm chainstays. And it's also possible to change those if you'd like. They sell aftermarket little chips that can make it longer by 5mm or shorter by 5mm. It's also worth mentioning that all the bikes come with different chainstay lengths depending on the size. So a small has smaller chainstays than the size extra large. Other geometry figures, you've got a really steep 78.2 seat tube angle. When the Madonna first came out, they were one of the early adopters of steep seat tubes, which as we know, they've become increasingly common, but this one, again, still on the steeper side of things, gives you a nice upright pedaling position so you can get up those climbs without feeling too stretched out, and that goes along with a reach that's 480mm, again, on the size large. Taking a closer look at the frame, it's really a case of function over fashion. They didn't cut corners to try to make things look pretty or super well refined. What they did was focus on the details that make it an easy bike to work on and a bike that can withstand hard riding in harsh conditions. And right now you can see we're in kind of a wetter environment. All these bearings are super well sealed. They're normal cartridge bearings, but then there's another seal on the outside of them. Again, just another layer of protection against wet conditions, grit, mud, anything like that. You've got external cable routing, so if you need to do any maintenance, it's really easy to pull the line, reinstall it. You don't have to fish through the frame at all. Raaw modified the top tube design of this bike a little bit compared to the previous version, and now there's two bolts on the underside that allow you to mount either a tube or tool, something like that. What I've got on there, that one's from Wolf Tooth, just a super easy, clean way to have your tube on there without needing to worry about it. Another cool feature of this frame is the fact that there's two different rocker lengths available. There's a rocker 60, which is on here, or there's a rocker 65, that's for riders that are around 90 kilograms, 200 pounds or so. Basically, what those do is alter the leverage ratio. So for lighter riders, it gives you a better mechanical advantage over the shock, makes it easier to go into the travel, gives it that nice small bump sensitivity. And for bigger riders, it means that they won't need to inflate their shock to super high air pressures and just allows them to make the most of that travel. The frame has a 20% leverage ratio progression, which means that it's either air or coil shock compatible. Just kind of opens up a range of options depending on your personal preference. Also worth noting that the frame itself is 150 grams lighter than the previous version. So still not a super light bike. As it sits right here, we're looking at somewhere around 33.5 pounds, but again, a burly aluminum frame, not out of the ordinary. But you know, a little bit of weight savings compared to the previous model, it's worth noting. Frame only price for the Madonna V2 is $2,120 US, and as this bike sits, it's $4,800 US. Build kit highlights this bike. You've got that Shimano XT 12-speed drivetrain, Shimano XT 4-piston brakes, Fox 36 fork up front with the Grip 2 damper, and you have a DPX2 shock in the rear. I only have a few rides in so far on the Raaw Madonna, but I've got to say, I'm kind of addicted. I head out to my shed, grab a bike that I'm going to take out to test. This is the one that keeps calling my name. There's something about it. It's just got a nice need for speed. So you hop on it, stable. It's planted, but liveliness that I hadn't really expected. You know, like I said, it's not the lightest bike, but does feel, especially this DPX2, that you can really hop and place it where you want to. That kind of blend of stability and liveliness is really fun. As far as climbing goes, I did mention the weight. It's not the lightest bike out there, but the climb position is super comfortable. That steep seat tube angle we keep going on about, it's there. You know, you're in a nice position. You might have to deal with some pedal strikes, especially if you're in rockier terrain. That bottom bracket's pretty low to the ground, so it's something to think about. But that low bottom bracket, when it does come time to descend, it's pretty amazing. Cornering on this thing, I think that's one of the reasons I keep grabbing it. Just sits nice and low, you're centered, feels nice and balanced with the chainstay length versus the front center length. You just really rail around turns. Like I said, still early days in testing this bike. I'm gonna keep putting the miles in on it. We're doing some comparisons of this versus some other bikes in the same travel bracket. But overall, my first impressions, it's an impressive offering from this small brand from Germany. There you have it. That's a closer look at the Raaw Madonna V2. Stay tuned for more detailed ride impressions once I put some more miles in on this machine.